Hey there, all you creepers and reapers. Welcome to another episode of the Femme Fatalities. I'm your co-hostess, Anna, and I'm here with...
Hey, Grieflings and Frightlings, it's Margaret, and today, Anna, what grim fairy tale are we going to be discussing?
Oh, one of the best, and I'm so excited for this film and having seen it and being able to talk about it because it is anti-Disney, and I love it. I love the fact that they have gone to the actual grim references in a delightful manner. We are talking about the Ugly Stepsister.
Yes, and that they tell it from a stepsister's perspective. This is not Cinderella's story.
Mhm.
This is one of her stepsisters.
Absolutely.
Stories who, yes, oh my gosh, trigger warnings.
Amputation, body modification, body horror, all the stuff that's right up my alley. Repressed sexuality, idealism, ideologies that are not in line with reality, money, women of the time, and a lack of options. Definitely way pre-feminism. What else?
As gender expectations, as you were touching on how female presenting people are treated, what they are expected to do, the sexualization of women, and then, as you touched on, the repression of female sexual feelings, or then the judgment, as we see with the ugly stepsister when she learns that good old Cinderella is sexually active and she's a bit aroused by seeing her stepsister have sex with the barn boy, but then she's also judging her like, ooh, you're gross for doing this.
Yeah. And it was very of the time, I guess you could say, or at least I assume it was. I wasn't alive back then. But I don't know. Elvira is our ugly stepsister. And she's just, to me, she's just like a regular looking girl. Yeah,
She wasn't ugly. She was
just look
regular looking.
regular. I do have to say, though, when they start going to the finishing school. So long story short, stepmother doesn't seem like a very pleasant person. So that's definitely in line with all the Cinderella stories. Moves with her two daughters to a home of this dude that has courted her. They get married. She thinks he has money. He thinks she has money. He has a daughter who turns out to be, I think she's called Agnes, but then they refer to her as Cinderella. Then, right after the wedding, old guy dies. All of these other things transpire, and we are left with Elvira dreaming that she's going to meet the prince of the land and marry him. As Margaret mentioned, she catches her stepsister hooking up with the stable boy. Then the stepsister gets punished and is forced to work. Oh my. And then the younger sister, Alma, I really enjoyed her. She's just like, I don't want no parts of any of this. But
yeah,
prior to Cinderella gallivanting with the young man in the stables, she's going to finishing school. So is Elvira. The leaders of the school see some potential, and I really appreciate that as part of this, they refer her to get some body mods done, and she also gets tapeworm eggs as a gift. So very in line with that old urban legend about the diet pills with the tapeworm eggs in them. Although they do give her the antidote, which very, very fair. Usually the tales that you hear, there is no antidote. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Yes, and that this movie really does show that not a lot has changed in gender norms, gender roles from the Brother Grimm time to now.
Yeah.
Elvira is expected to look good because even her mom says, if you don't get the prince, you're going to get somebody at this ball. You need to get somebody with money.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie was a bit over the top too, where we see mom then courting the young guy, getting ready to have oral sex with him so that she can land him this notion that women's commodity is their body. So how are they going to use their body to get their needs met, and that men are expecting that?
Absolutely. And I think just the whole body modification, which I love body horror, but you know, quote unquote, fixing Elvira's nose. And then for me, the eyelashes, that was really remarkable. Like, that probably was how they did it back then, though, too. They take a strip of fake eyelashes and sew them into the lids, and then you heal. And obviously, the skin has grown over. And if you still have your vision, you probably have big doe eyes after that. But I was just like, wow, okay. I was kind of curious though, because he referenced, like, if you come back, I'll give you a set of breasts like my nurse has. And I'm like, I wonder how they did implants back then or what they did. But I just thought it was really, really interesting that probably back in the day you could go and have those things done. I always just think of that time they didn't have running water, electricity, gas, any of those things, that everybody was just like dirty and miserable. But maybe maybe people were getting modified even then.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, that was, I appreciated that in the movie.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, we find out all of the kind of fairy tales that are Americanized, that we see a lot in Disney movies, those sorts of things. Prince Charming is always that. He's this great, wonderful, handsome person. I don't know if you caught this in the movie, but when the prince and his friends are in the woods, he's saying really atrocious things before he even sees Elvira. And there is one part where I do believe he's commenting that his penis is super red, and one of the guys is like, put butter on it, because I guess that's what you did for STDs back in the day. And I'm just like, ugh. And then they were also talking about like the horrified faces that virgins make when they deflower them. And I'm thinking, I don't know if Elvira is hearing this, but at some point she should be less enamored if she's hearing this conversation, because that does not make him very appealing. And then of course
she's already right. She's already like idolized him. She's reading the book of his poems or whatever. So then, even though he's like, I have an STD, and it's so funny when you deflower somebody, she's like, oh my gosh, it's the prince, and he's what we see in the book. So talk about like idolizing people, and then it comes out they're not a good person, and people go, well, I want them to be this, so I'll take them at this, and not, well, actually you're this.
Yeah, and really that speaks to, like you said, things don't change that much even today. I think this could be said for feminine and masculine facing people. When you get in a relationship, you continue because you see this version of the person that you want them to be, not who they really are, right? I think that everyone's had at least one relationship like that. So it really speaks a lot of truth there. But even when he's saying these horrible, derogatory things about her appearance, and she just doesn't pick up what he's putting down. And it's really unfortunate. And then also, I feel kind of sad for Cinderella in the sense that she's like, okay, I've won, I've got the prince. And then I'm like, yeah, you're also about to get the clap. So probably not going to end super great for you either. You should have just run off with the stable boy and been happy.
And probably, like, as you're talking about how realistic it is, like, that was probably really common that you are expected to be with this noble person that's supposed to be really great.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a great person. They already have an STD. They're shortening your lifespan,
Yeah.
probably jeopardizing the health of your unborn children because they're not this person and you're supposed to idolize them. You're supposed to be like, oh yeah, I just won the lottery by getting the prince.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just gross. And it's like, when you think about it, during those times, is that really all people had to look forward to? And it kind of made me think about modern day, where there are like debutante balls, homecomings, and proms, and those sorts of things. And there's so much hype and so much investment put into those, and it's a one night event. And yeah, I will say, like, I've always been kind of not into that kind of stuff. I think that for me, high school was just not a time that I really enjoyed. I was not into the whole communing with other people my age and that kind of stuff. So I do have a very skewed opinion about those sorts of things, but it is amazing that, you know, you have the prince's estate where you show up to dance and present yourself, and really, isn't that what people still do today when they're high school age?
You're touching on the still relevant primitive courting rituals that we hold on to that are no longer, they don't fit for the time that we're in, to have to still be this fake person so that you can get the person that has the money or the looks or whatever it is, so that you can take care of yourself.
Well, and even think about it too, like dating apps, you swipe left or right if you like a person or they're not your type, right? So you see their name, you see an image, you see very basic information, and you're supposed to make a decision that could impact the rest of your life. You know, it's pretty wild when you really think about it.
And then again, from barbaric to, again, still looks matter, from Ugly Stepsister time to now. And then what do we know and how are we making a decision? So dating apps, swiping that says the name and you're looking at the picture. Yep. Or even look at Ugly Stepsister. Elvira von Stepsister. Agnes, whatever her name is, like to say. And I know you're German, and so for those that don't know a lot about Germany, von was a way that you then knew where somebody came from. So you were learning their social status in their name.
Yeah, like von means from. So yeah, I think it's very of then, and it just the Bavarian Germanic area. That's kind of, like you said, it's how you introduce people. It was, I appreciated the linguistic accuracy as well, and it definitely looked like Bavaria. So there's that too, but it just it was, I enjoyed the movie a lot, but some of it was just like really like, wow, okay. And I think as
it's
a modern person watching it, it's like, dang, like this is really what it was like then. And also like Agnes, her dad, his corpse is just laying around, and they stop using that room because he's rotting in there.
Yes, and she's mad at her stepmother for not taking care of the body. And I also feel like you touch on, this is not an American film. And so it is a very European film. I believe it's Swedish. Yeah. And so we can see right there, the difference is where when when Agnes is in the stable having sex with her boyfriend, like right there, and it took me a minute. I was like, is that a vagina? That is a vagina that I'm looking at right now, where we don't have that in American films, or where it's like, wait, oh, we're just going to see his penis right here. We are going to see these things. Europe, they are more comfortable in their films showing these things than here in the US. It's not as, maybe it's not common there, and I'm just making assumptions. If you are in Sweden or Europe, okay.
Yeah, I can, because I studied German in high school, that's how I got like the fluency. Went to Germany, and I can remember being like a 14 or 15-year-old kid and just astounded because there's like a sex shop. Well, to me, it was like on every corner. There was probably only like one or two that I saw, but being a teenager. But people are way more comfortable. It's just like it's there. It's no big deal. Whereas I can remember there was a dirty bookstore downtown in the city I grew up in. And it's like this big deal. And like in high school we would walk by and be like, and then we would like dare each other, I dare you to go in. And of course they were like, I think like 2 or 3 doors. You never got past the first door because they were like, get out of here, you weird kid. But it's funny that it's so taboo, as you said here, and in other countries it's just part of life. That's even I think a lot of people from the United States particularly get shocked when they turn on European TV when they're in Europe, because it's so different.
Yes, it plays on the prudeness. So listeners, viewers, if you watch this and you are American, you are watching a European film. A body, if it's nudity is not as appalling as it is here. There's nude beaches in Spain, and I've heard Americans say, oh my gosh, they have children there. Nobody's being sexualized. It's a nude beach. Children are playing. People are nude. That's it. Americans are very prude, and we put a lot of judgment on things. So if you watch this film, nudity is nudity. You're gonna see vaginas and penises, and it's part of the film. It's not that like even like I said, I wasn't expecting it. So then for a minute my brain was not processing what I was seeing, and like I said, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I wasn't judging it, just took my brain. On American TV, unless you're watching porn, you're not seeing vaginas on American TV.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just
or you're seeing like frontal, like this was so
it was just they were getting ready to get it on. It was pictured as it happens,
doggy style.
It's just very different in terms of culture, but I enjoy that being included because I think that the artistic freedom when referencing the True Grimm fairy tale. Of course, one of my favorite parts, aside from the tapeworm, is after the ball when she wants to make Cinderella's shoe fit her feet, and she chops those toes. Because it is.
Mom, not just her, both of them are chopping off her toes.
Yeah, in the original fairy tale, they chop their toes and part of their heels off, and the glass fills up with blood. Yes. So it was really, I enjoyed seeing that. But the mom, I think she's way worse than the stepmother that we're all accustomed to. Most versions of the story have her as just being awful. This one is like, you're choosing to fillet some guy over your own child's well-being, and it really drove home that she was the terrible stepmother and terrible mother all wrapped in one.
She wanted her daughters to go marry some rich guy to take care of her. She was tired of taking care of them. I think she alluded to that. She didn't sound like she really wanted to be a mom. She was doing the thing that women are expected to do, which is have babies, regardless if they want to have babies.
Yeah. And really, I mean, this young guy, in that era, she was probably only in her 30s. So if they did marry, she could have probably, given him children as well, because that's, like you said, it's what women were expected to do then. I do love the ending, and I have hope. I love that, even though Elvira returns to her pre-glamorous state after falling down the stairs because, her feet are hard to balance on without the toes. She re-breaks her nose. All of these other things happen. Her hair's fallen out because of the tapeworm. She's not getting any nutrition. I enjoy that her sister's like, it's gonna be okay. Let's get out of here. And yeah, I thought that.
I loved the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Me
loved
too.
the ending.
And I'm thinking Cinderella's gonna end up with the clap. The mom is gonna end up with goodness knows what. And then these two get to escape. Good for them.
Yes. And that the movie The Ugly Stepsister wasn't the Ugly Stepsister. Society made her ugly by putting all these constraints on her that she couldn't hold up. And side note, I loved their mourning clothing. When husband/dad died, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the fashion in this movie. Some of it is not very appealing, but some of it is beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, gorgeous. I just thought it was great. And, for me, I'm like, oh, I wonder, what happens to Elvira and Alma and how that goes. I actually, part of the film, when Alma wakes up and she's gotten her period, I was like, oh, the prince is going to select her. I was like convinced. I was like, she's just going to be like in the background, hanging out outside by the carriage, doing whatever, eating a piece of cake, chilling. And the prince is going to be like, I want that young one. And then he's going to have to die. But that didn't happen. So, because I was like, oh, maybe this will turn into like a murder film too. But I was concerned because we already had established that he was gross and a creep. And I was like, oh, what if he went with this poor 12-year-old girl,
Which was common for the time.
Yeah, it really was. At least we've progressed from there. Thank goodness. I just could not imagine. Just very different times. Yeah. And I can't really fully comment because I didn't live during that era. Things were vastly different. I mean, the average life expectancy was like 40, so very, very different times. But I do want to ask, who do you relate to most of all in this film?
I guess I'm gonna have to go with Alma. I was like, I don't want to be any part of what this is. Like, I'll be here to support you and help you, but I don't want to be any part of it. How about you?
Yeah, same here. I'm Alma. Like, let's get out of here. That would be me. I'd be like, F this. Let's get out of here.
And even both of us, I think, would be like, what are you doing? Because it feels like at some points Alma's like, what? Like, I don't understand this. Like, help me understand. Why are you doing this? This is ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think part of that too is, once again, parents and expectations. We try to live up to these expectations. Our parental units set for us. You have to grow into your own person, and even society's expectations. Well, what are your expectations of yourself? And when you apply that to like thanatology and grief, right? You're expected to behave in a certain manner when someone dies, and then after they die. And society has certain expectations, but what about your cultural and religious expectations and obligations? What about your personal expectations for yourself? And that can be a very difficult, confusing time. So just know that there are supports and services out there for you to help you kind of build a toolkit and navigate the process.
Oh, yes. This movie mirrors, like you said, parental and societal expectations and their impact, and then you tie that into how thanatology also gets tied into that. There's all these expectations. And how do we as people deal with them?
Absolutely. Yes, and if you have seen any other fairy tale inspired horror films, please let us know because this was a fun watch. I definitely recommend it. If you have any questions or you want to share your thoughts about this movie, if you've seen it, please comment below and let us know. And until the next time, make sure you drink your Bruja Brew, eat your coffin cookies, and howl at the moon. And don't forget,
Like, subscribe, follow, comment. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
bye bye.